Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Thomas, buenos dias from sunny and warm Bitcoin country El Salvador. Geez, what a great place for you to have landed, Thomas. We love it. Christine, good morning indeed. Bitcoin Deb, yo, 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 yo. We got a coffee and a chillin'. Doing great, doing great. B for victory, bon matin. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Hope you're doing well. John, good morning. Hassan, good morning. Tom, good morning. Jason, good morning. And a good morning to you, CB says. Indeed, good morning to you. Scott Stapp for VP higher. Oh, it's such a good meme, huh? We love it. We love it. Aqualodge, good morning. Joseph Norwood, good morning. Robert, what is the state of the Bitcoin today? The state is good. We're going to be talking about it all. Good morning, team. My crazy white lab just growled and lurched at the thumbnail on our TV. Weird. The eyes, maybe? Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, wasn't it, Bitcoin Deb? Sun is up in Minnesota. My prompt this morning for that thing was in the style of Picasso, and got that thumbnail. So there you go. Greetings and salutations. Indeed. Had to look up who Scott Stapp was, to be honest. But he will take us higher, CB reminds us. He indeed will. One of the fun things for me personally about this is to watch, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Creed song "Will You Take Me Higher" is also sort of trending in the MAGA world. So we're getting a real big like MAGA Bitcoin-y confluence this time around. None of this stuff existed before, which is great for me. Fun for me personally. I like seeing mimetic convergence. Very fun, very fun. All right. Now, Muslim Bitcoiner asked me, and this is something I did promise, so I shall do it, which is to make sure I read the Rumble comments on my own personal Rumble as we get started, because we love you guys and we don't want to leave you out and we want you here. Oh, we've already got a pretty good audience over there. Doing great. CB Van in both places. Loving life. Good morning, fellow crew member. Drew Hadley says, it's all about freedom, baby, indeed. Sharia Bitcoin, assalam, sailor with the fiat glitch, sell company debt, buy more BTC, and make every company look like morons. We love it. Good morning, Sluggo. Hope you're doing well. Beautiful Thursday and Bitcoin running. C. Berger reminds us, indeed. And maybe Dr. Mark Pugner. Good morning, Doctor. Glad you're here. Lance, what a week we're having. Muslim Bitcoiner, yo, I'm here for you, Muslim Bitcoiner. I told you I'd come and check. I'll make a habit of this. I won't forget it because we love people over on Rumble. We do. Mimetic Convergence Trophy, yellow, smiling. We love it, Mugatu. We love it. Many blessings all. We love it. All right, let's acknowledge we got a major sunrise tech happening this morning on the east coast of North America. Things are looking great. Looks like the sun's going to just keep whipping around this world. And Bitcoin's running, everyone. We're doing great. Nothing to worry about. All right, let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. I almost forgot to sip my coffee. Imagine what that would have done to you guys if I forgot to sip it. That kind of shit drives me crazy. All right. Let's see what kind of fake news we have today, everyone. All right. So over in the Washington Post, they're asking a really important question. They say, are we living in an age of humans? Question mark. Geologists say no. Now, I'm actually on the geologist side this time. It's pretty fun, but go read the article. It's actually a pretty good one. I guess the geologists are now saying that there's no human-caused global warming, and people are losing it. So the geologists, not the favorite science folks these days of the climate communists. Oh, this one's from our friend Paul Krugman, an economist, everyone, our favorite economists. He says, Trump seems to be doubling down on scary brown people are terrorizing our cities, quotation marks. Meanwhile, he says, crime is down in our major U.S. cities. Trump is just doing scary brown people stuff. He's just doing that. If you didn't notice already, in New York now, if you want to take the subway, it's kind of like boarding an airplane because they have the military there. and they got to do a full scan every time you go on the subway. So things are going great in New York. We're having a great time. Oh, this is awesome. John Kerry. I ran into him on the street once in New York outside of my office. Real scumbag. Here's what he says. He's retiring, right? So he's got to do his world tour while he retires. If you don't know who John Kerry is, he was a loser of a presidential election against George Bush. So, he's probably better than the guy that beat him, but he never became president. Here, this is what he says. John Kerry says people would feel better about the war in Ukraine if Russia would make a greater effort to reduce emissions. It's true. Yeah, that was his retirement speech. He made one of the most amazing points I've ever heard said in public. Ever. I've never heard a public figure say something so retarded. He actually said this. People would feel better about the war in Ukraine if Russia would just make a greater effort to recycle. Things would be fine, right? That old Putin. Oh, here's a warning to all space drop advocates. This comes from CNN. All right, we got to make sure we check this, guys. I'm going to tell you what's up. Ready? I'm going to read the headline and then I'll tell you what's up. Mother wins $3.2 million wrongful death lawsuit after her son was on death row and dies of a peanut allergy during his last meal. Okay, so they were going to execute someone, but then he had a last meal and he got some peanuts into it and he didn't make it, right? And the mother said the state knew he could not eat peanuts, mother claims. They knew. So everyone, if anyone, when we get to our space drop part of the game, right? I'd say we're space dropping in 2 years. Remember, check all space drop candidates for peanut allergies and do not feed them the peanuts first. We will be deprived of our space drop. So remember that. This is an important public service announcement. Do not let space drop candidates go with allergies unnoticed. We must catalog all the space drop people. We have to know all their allergies. We cannot let this happen again. This is a travesty. Travesty. Here's another one from San Francisco. There was a vote with all of the stuff going on 2 days ago with the primaries and the elections and whatnot. And San Francisco approved 2 changes. So one of them will allow the police to do their job a little better, they say, and the other one should reduce some drug use. So little non-controversial things that passed. And what does the San Francisco Chronicle say about what happened? Voters make it clear San Francisco can no longer be called a progressive city. So good. This is from Spain. The New York Post writes, Spanish soldiers changing gender to female for added benefits and higher pay. On the inside, I am a lesbian, the Spanish soldier has declared. On the inside, I am a lesbian for more money. Perfect. This one's great. This is an actor, Michael Ian Black. And he wrote a Trump porn piece yesterday. So he wrote some Trump porn, right? By the way, have you seen all these compilations of instead of insurrection, all of the folks saying erection? You know also that Styx, Hex, and Hammer has done an actual book on all of the weird sexual fetishes that liberals have towards Trump. It's like a compilation of all the greatest hits. But here's what we know. This guy, Michael Ian Black, wrote a kind of like first person memoir as if he was describing what would happen when Trump wins. And this is what it says. When Trump rounds up migrants, what will it look like? And then he says, he promises he'll only be dictator for a day. Get ready for the purge. You got to see this Michael Ian Black's face too. He's looking great. Okay, this is great too. So there's all still kinds of fallout from the primary stuff the other day. And we have a few pretty good quotes here. And this one comes from Rachel Maddow. She says, talking about California having mail-in ballots, she says, for everyone wondering if mail-in voting is a good idea, right? It works, she says. It works. Mail-in ballots are the best. We don't need any ID controls, nothing. She's letting us know right now. It's perfect. Elections, we don't need that stuff. No confirmation, no auditability. It's perfect the way it is, according to Rachel Maddow. So that's excellent. This is great too. I said this would be funny to watch people just come out straight lie, just lie. And what an advantage it is that they would come out and lie about Biden and his mental health. I remember when I said, Janet Yellen probably couldn't be taken seriously anymore, and all these other people who just keep going on about how awesome Biden is doing, right? He's just doing great. Well, yesterday we had the world record in someone trying to promote Biden's mental clarity and mental health, and it comes from Joe Scarborough. This is what he says. For real, he said this in public. He says, Biden is beyond cogent. He's beyond cogent, guys. He is better than he's ever been intellectually and analytically. He is the best Biden ever. He's the best Biden ever. That's what he says. I'm about to tell you the truth, he says. The version of Biden intellectually, analytically is the best Biden, not a close second. And I've known him for years. He's doing great. He's doing awesome. So good. So good. We also had Joy Reid, the one with the Trump wig, going on. Again, this is all just still fallout from the primaries 2 days ago. This is what he said about Biden, about his decline. She says, he's declined, right? She admits he's declined because he does his job, okay? He does his job. The reason Trump doesn't look old like Biden looks old is because the presidency ages you when you do the job, okay? Donald Trump looks the same as when he ran because he played golf all the time. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, I got another one here from Joe Scarborough. It's out of order, but I got to read it too. This is what Joe Scarborough said about Trump. He said, Donald Trump's campaign is based on so many lies. This is why they lose every year, because they run campaigns dedicated to trashing the greatest country on the face of the earth. Joe Scarborough. He's so good. And now I got a special edition. This one's perfect. Phil Bump came up with one. He didn't write 3 articles yesterday, just wrote 1, but it's a great one. So we're going to talk about it. It's awesome. All right. This is where he's doing his mind reading thing. That's how he gets to 3 articles a day. He's a mind reader. Phil Bump can actually read everyone's mind, including Elon Musk. Now, it's kind of a weird thing if you can read the mind of the richest man in the world, but instead you write for the Washington Post 3 articles a day, right? It's kind of a weird flex. Like, if you could read the mind of the richest person in the world, you'd probably try to enrich yourself. I don't know why he's not doing it. I think it's just because Phil Bump is such a good guy. That's why he doesn't really want to do this. But he's using his superpower here to mind read Elon Musk. It's excellent. He says, it's not money that Elon Musk is contributing to Donald Trump. All right, so he goes on. News that Elon Musk met with Donald Trump over the weekend prompted not gasps of surprise, but instead the sort of, oh, sure, of course, response that comes from figuring out a mystery story written for children, he says. Naturally, Trump and Musk are sitting down. They are fundamentally the same character. Phil Bump says that Trump and Elon are fundamentally the same character, fundamentally. With Musk trailing Trump's evolution from business guy to right-wing political actor by about a decade. So it's just Musk is a little behind Trump. That's all it is, right? He's just a little behind. And this is what he says about Musk. He says, Musk has been robustly... Does everyone know that only idiots use adjectives for writing? Does everyone know that? Right? No, I hope so. But anyway, here he goes. He's the adjective king. Musk, as has been robustly demonstrated very publicly over the last 16 months or so, insists upon convincing himself. So Musk insists on convincing himself. According to Phil Bump, he insists on convincing himself. Okay. Come on, Musk. Come on, Elon. You can do it. Right. Yeah. That's what he does. Elon is just there. Come on, Elon. You're a winner. You're a winner. Okay. Like I said, it's a good thing Phil Bump can read minds, because I don't know where he would get this content from otherwise. So he's convincing himself that he has discovered the answers on which he eventually lands. Listen to the sentence. Musk, as has been robustly demonstrated very publicly over the last 16 months or so, insists upon convincing himself that he has discovered the answers on which he eventually lands. Okay? He is the archetype of the guy who does his own research, meaning he is the archetype of the guy who seizes on contrarian arguments that others have put forward. The 2024 Republican candidate who manifested this energy, an energy that is inseparable from hyper-attentiveness to the online conversation, was Vivek Ramaswamy. And true to form, Musk repeatedly expressed approval of Ramaswamy's candidacy. Oh my God, he expressed approval of Ramaswamy? Oh my God. Musk doesn't want Trump to be able to say that the Tesla CEO is on his team. No, of course not, right? Musk wants to be able to frame Trump as being on his team. Come on. Just as he was able to get Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to announce his presidential candidacy on X or Twitter or whatever it was called in May, just like Musk similarly played host to Ramaswamy in an online conversation with not terribly helpful results. Musk wants to be in a position of power, and he seems dissatisfied with the power that comes from having lots of money. He's dissatisfied. So according to Bump, because he can read Elon's mind, Elon is sitting there and said, I thought when I had all the money in the world, I'd be happy, but now I'm not. I gotta go help Ramaswamy and Trump because maybe that'll make me happy. It gets better. It gets better. So this is what this is now, because Musk is talking about encouraging illegal immigrations, and that's why Biden is doing it, so that he could legalize them to create a permanent majority of Democrat voters. It's an explicit articulation of the great replacement theory, and one that bears no relationship to reality, everyone. No relationship to reality, okay? The research he'd conducted to demonstrate that this was Biden's plan included an image of an Associated Press article headlined "Biden to prioritize legal status for millions of immigrants." This is not a recent article, but one from a transition period before Biden took office. Jeez. The article reported that Biden would introduce legislation on the first day in office that provided a path to citizenship, and he did. And it went nowhere. So here's Phil Bump's explanation now of why Elon Musk bought Twitter, X. Musk purchased then Twitter in part because he argued he opposed the social media platform's approach to moderating content. Like many on the right, he conflated rules limiting toxic behavior and misinformation with limits on right-wing speech. He confused them. He just confused them, guys. It's no big deal. Musk insisted that Twitter should become a free speech zone, by which he didn't really mean that anyone could say anything so much as he meant that his viewpoints and viewpoints of his ideological allies would be unfettered. This overlaps almost entirely with the do-your-own research worldview, in which even wrongful or harmful arguments must be necessarily granted oxygen, right? So there you go. And then he asks, why are these rules in place, Phil Bump says? Largely because in 2016, the tactic of using the internet to bully and harass ideological opponents spilled over into social media in force. That's why censorship is there, because of the bullying, guys. That's everyone knows, right? Those voices were often right-wing and heavily pro-Trump. Twitter, at that point, became a way for pro-Trump voices to organize, coordinate, and engage in unified action. Twitter implemented controls, and then Musk lifted those controls. These benefits to Trump are apparent. DeSantis' presidential campaign hoped to leverage the positive sentiment he had earned from voices on the right when he sought re-election as governor in 2022. But he quickly ran against the established, potent pro-Trump buzzsaw that existed in right-wing social media. Trump facing legal bills, legal penalties, campaign costs, and who knows what else, could also use some cash. Intentionally or not, he says, Musk is actively engaged in organizing in support of Trump on his platform of hundreds of millions of users. One monetary donation is icing on the cake. 1 second here. All right, so that's what we got on Phil Bump. He's doing great. Now I'm about to read another headline. This is not a coincidence, everyone. Okay, this has nothing to do with people trying to equate Trump and Elon Musk. Nothing to do. They're not related. Okay, they're not related. Nothing to do with people saying that Elon is just another Trump in disguise. Okay. This is in Germany. Eco-arsonists' attack on Tesla, which they did yesterday, is going to cost over $1 billion. What happened? Production at Tesla's Berlin Gigafactory will likely be suspended until the end of next week after eco-arsonists set fire to transformer supplying the plant's electricity to a transformer. The Gigafactory produces up to 1,400 Model Ys daily, and it's estimated that Tesla's losses will exceed $1 billion by the time power is restored. Brandenburg's state government is considering taking harsher action against the protesters, but probably not. They're not related, okay? Elon had it coming, right? He had it coming. So there you go. Now, when you think of these, what's going on with Elon and these ridiculous articles people are writing about it and what the connection is, you can start to really see that the anxiety that the brainwashing is producing or cultivating, or the mental illness that's out there right now, being cultivated mostly by the brainwashers, is really starting to have terrible, terrible effects. And you can even see it from a few of the pieces just about what's going on with Trump and Biden happening. Again, our friend Brian Stelter was helpful enough to share a few of these with us. And here's what Brian Stelter was arguing, right? So Brian Stelter takes this one New York Times article, which is "The Trump-Biden rematch is here. Americans are processing." And then he says the New York Times is nailing it. He says psychologists say the looming rematch is prompting intense feelings of powerlessness and unease among Americans. Unease. There's so much unease. And then he goes further. Here's another one from the New York Times. Trump's Super Tuesday speech assessing 10 false and misleading statements. You know what's really great too that I noticed? That ever since Biden won, the fact checkers are gone, but they only come out when they have to do something that Trump said, right? Only. So here's what, and they didn't fact check, by the way. Did you guys notice Biden hyping up today's State of the Union speech? So Biden is going to be giving the State of the Union speech. And this morning they tweeted out that he's giving the State of the Union 2023. Did they fact check the year? Did they fact check the year? No, I don't. I guess they didn't, right? I think they're just going to delete it and we're never going to hear about it again. But he did actually tweet out State of the Union 2023 from the Biden White House account. So it's pretty perfect, from the POTUS account, which is just great. And that's where we get our headline today. It's the hate of the union of money and state. So instead of the State of the Union, we're going to talk about the hate of the union, and that the hate really does come from money and state being connected. And we're going to talk all about that today. That's our theme for the day. So here's the other one, and this is the cynical part, and this is where you can see the brainwashing really take its form and shape, and this is how it works, right? This is exactly how it works. So Brian Stelter from a Washington Post article this time saying, the Biden-Trump rematch feared by many voters has now arrived. It says, this is a two Americas election. There's one America where it's about pluralism and inclusivity and democratic norms. And that's Joe Biden, okay? So there's one America, and that's about pluralism and inclusivity and democratic norms. And that's Joe Biden. Then you have another America that is fed up and angry and cynical. And that's Donald Trump. That's what he's out there saying, right? That's what Brian Stelter's out there saying. So he's out there saying that the mental illness actually comes from the Trump side, right? So it's not the brainwashers. It's not the people who would gaslight you. It's not any of those things. It's just Trump is angry and cynical. And so that's what's spreading all of this anxiety and all of this chaos. And indeed, those are the words you're going to have to look for, by the way. Here's a tip from Scott Adams, where he breaks down how to analyze tonight's hate of the union speech. And this is what he says. Let me get the quote here. This is what he says about the hate of the union. Some pretty good quotes here. He says the following, right? Here are some things to look for. Brainwashing words. So these are the ones that Scott Adams is underlining. Chaos, extreme, darkness, existential Trump threat, dictator. He's going to do a hoax highlight, right? So he'll talk about the insurrection hoax, the fine people hoax, the border is closed hoax, the Putin puppet hoax, and more. So there's going to be all of these hoaxes that he's going to bring up tonight. And he'll definitely be using these brainwash words. And you can start to see these. You got Hakeem Jeffries saying this exact thing yesterday, The Hill reporting on it, saying, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries slams do-nothing Republicans over the chaos and dysfunction and extremism. You're going to see more of those words. So the theme of tonight's speech is going to be that, right? It's going to be gaslighting. It's going to be saying chaos, constantly darkness, dictator, Putin puppet, all of these things, right? The border, it's politics, you're just playing politics, right? So they're going to go with all of these scams and schemes. And, probably correct. So we can imagine that'll be there. But again, when we think about where all this mental illness actually comes from and why we have it and why people indeed are living in America anyway in this really awful state of perpetual fighting, perpetual division, perpetual anxiety about the future, anxiety about climate change, anxiety about the economy, anxiety about buying a house. I mean, just think about it. Buying a house is like one of the most stressful things you can go through in America these days. And we have a bit of an idea why. And I think it continues to come from this lack of feedback loop from the money, right? So when you have a financial system that fuels the very brainwashing that is causing all of this mischief in people's minds, you end up being able to explain most of it away. And because we don't have any accountability in our system whatsoever, there's just literally zero accountability within the fiat system, you end up getting people like this. And Joe Consorti is underlining it's Rashida Tlaib. So yesterday, this low IQ fucking retard from God knows where, who has absolutely no experience in anything related to finance. This is the lady that tried to ban Bitcoin a little while ago. This is the lady that's always going on about Bitcoin being for criminals, right? And she comes out, or Tlaib, Rashida Tlaib, and tries to talk with Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, yesterday, because he was called in for one of those things where they go on. I had a job doing that for a long time, by the way, running these committees and questioning, at the time, Mark Carney. So I had a lot to do with writing questions for people like Tlaib, not a Democrat in my case, but that's, we would get them and create questions and try and get things in the news and talking points out there. So she doesn't know the difference. You can see from her almost illiterate stammering, Joe Consorti underlining it here. She doesn't know the difference between monetary and fiscal policy, right? She didn't know who Ben Bernanke was, okay? And Joe Consorti says, the sooner you realized you're governed by illiterates, the sooner we can get rid of them. And indeed, it's these illiterates that have created the situation that we're in. These people are financially illiterate. They continue to make, magical assumptions about how the economy works. Of course, the government can just print money. The government can do this. The government can do that. In fiat, they're correct that they can do that. But now that we're starting to understand what the actual risks are, and that printing money is itself a form of risk, and one that is now sinking the American financial system. We saw this New York community bank go bust yesterday, right? It's been sort of a week going that this thing is going bust. Balaji has been tracking this from the beginning, of course, right? Balaji's been on this idea that the US banks have been insolvent for over a year now. And that the market just hasn't caught up with the reality of them all being broken and bust, and that it should take not much longer before we understand it. Now, there's a new AI out there called Claude AI. A lot of people are saying it's better than the open AI chat GPT thing. So Balaji yesterday asked Claude AI to do the reporting that legacy media won't, and he asked it to report on the solvency of US banks. So he says, in short, the safest asset, this is what Claude gave him as an answer. The safest asset in the world is now the riskiest asset in the world. If banks are forced to value US treasuries correctly, they're dead. So they are refusing to participate in treasury markets unless the accounting rules are faked. It's just like 2008, where everyone was told that the mortgage-backed securities were AAA, except this time the new toxic waste is treasuries themselves, right? So now it looks like the risk is from the state. It looks like the state has literally put a bunch of risk onto the commercial banks in the United States and requires these effed up financial accounting measures in order to make any of it make sense to anyone, which of course it doesn't, right? And that's why you end up in a world where we're coming apart at the seams with these mental illness issues, because the only thing that can take up the void is the gaslighting. There is no other way. There is no other way but to convince people that what their lying eyes are seeing isn't true. And so if you don't do that, if that's not done at maximum velocity, if that's not done with maximum leverage and everything else that's being used by the brainwashing system, then you end up getting this type of mental illness, which is what's, sort of affecting most people in America right now. And it's only getting worse, right? Balaji says the following: the US establishment is now so cash hungry that they are chewing through $10 billion a day. They are eating the market cap of a $1 billion unicorn every single hour. So just think of the, just for a second, try and think in terms of fiat and these huge numbers and what it means. Even if America with productivity was able to spawn a new unicorn a day, the appetite for the system would devour it, and it wouldn't even show up in our capacity to fight inflation or anything like that. So that's kind of why you're getting this situation where we're living in a financial system that absolutely gives zero feedback loop, zero capacity to right your wrongs, to course correct. There is no feedback. The system is just adrift and lost at sea and trying to stabilize itself on anything it can, but there's nothing there for it to stabilize on. So that's why you have to fudge the numbers, fudge the accounting, and push for this kind of fake system. And that's also why, people are talking more and more about, we have the budget now, the daily budget or whatever, the thing that's the provisional budget that it looks like the speaker might have agreed to. He's saying, oh, we're going to cut this thing a few dollars, and we're going to cut this thing a few dollars, and cut this thing a few dollars. And Travis and Flint reminds us, because everyone was sort of pouring over all of these earmarks yesterday and all of the pork barrel politics and all of the different things that are being packed into the spending package. Some people using AI, some people using Claude, some people using Grok, some people using other services, but they're catching a lot of amazing stuff, interesting stuff that would have all gone over everyone's head. And so the conclusion of all of this pork barrel stuff comes from Travis and Flint. He says the US government has built a system where they can spend billions fraudulently and most Americans won't even notice. Our founding fathers wouldn't stand for any of this mess. And indeed, that's where you start getting this system where you can actually see that the fiat system is designed for this confusopoly. And there's a lot of people who've been sharing this idea. It's called the purpose of a system is what it does. The POSIWID. You've got Mark Andreessen, who's been talking about this. You've also got Balaji's been talking about this. And the definition is sort of is this: the purpose of a system is what it does, is a system thinking heuristic coined by Stafford Beer, who observed that there is no point in claiming that the purpose of a system is to do what it constantly fails to do. The term is widely used by systems theorists and is generally invoked to counter the notion that the purpose of a system can be read from the intentions of those who design, operate, or promote it. When a system's side effects or unintended consequences reveal that its behavior is poorly understood, then the purpose of a system is what it does perspective can balance political understandings of system behavior with a more straightforwardly descriptive view. Now, remember that in the case of Bitcoin, right, the system that we're talking about here is what we call cryptoeconomics, right? And cryptoeconomics are economics like we've all understood, right? So this is nothing to do with cryptocurrencies at all. Well, sort of a little bit, but cryptoeconomics is actually a subfield of system design, of engineering, not a subfield of economics. The economics are exactly what you all know. It's choices, right? Incentives, choices, individual choices that are made. Now, in the case of cryptoeconomics, those choices are the ones that go into developing the system itself. And that's why proof of work as an element of the system, of the decentralized nature of the system, of the competition to tell the truth in order to get the block reward and thereby grow and secure the network even more, tells you everything you need to know about Bitcoin. The point is to literally have the most accurate feedback loop possible for the money in order that it grows and continues to grow in its healthy, upright manner. You can actually measure cryptoeconomics. And I built a tool years ago that did that and measured other coins versus Bitcoin by using Bitcoin as the actual measuring stick of its cryptoeconomic health. And so you could use Bitcoin as a denominator, and you can divide any other chain, data, whatever you want by what's happening in Bitcoin, and you get a sense of its relative health vis-a-vis Bitcoin. So system design is truly the category of engineering that Bitcoin belongs to. And therein you can actually determine what the point of the Bitcoin system is. It is to literally grow in a healthy way by incentivizing people to tell the truth to the network in order that it continues and perpetuates. And that looks like what's been going on for the last 14 years. It looks like 15 years. It looks like we've been successful in proving cryptoeconomics is a real thing. It was only theoretical before, right? There was no real cryptoeconomic example. It was sort of just something people could theorize about, but now we have proof, right? We were able to grow organically a system based on all kinds of economic inputs and outputs and things people were incentivized to do, behaviors they were incentivized to realize, right? Running a node, setting up a mining rig, et cetera, et cetera. So system design is a major, major part of what Bitcoin has as an advantage over the fiat system. The fiat system, of course, we know we can, if you take this, the purpose of a system is what it does. Well, what is the purpose of fiat? It's to fund war, right? That's pretty obvious now. So we've seen that play out for a while now. But it also is designed to obfuscate. It's designed so that you can't actually tell what's going on. There's simply too much psychological commodity money being produced and created simply by creating a debt. Like I can create dollars right now. I owe everyone watching this $100 US, right? So that created money. That it did it right there. I created money right there. I created US dollars right there. Now no one can track these. There is no real claim on this debt, right? I can say, no, my feed was hacked, right? It never happened. So there you go. The system design piece of it is, a really important thing. And the inability that we have to track any spending, to track what's going on, is what's leading to this mental illness epidemic throughout America. It's why we have the brainwashing. It's why we have the gaslighting. It's why so many people are lying to you on a daily basis about the safety of our cities, the true cost of different things in our economy, and the true cost of the entire infrastructure around the US dollar. The cost of the infrastructure around the US dollar is mental illness. And if you want to go back to what we're talking about when it comes to the purpose of the system, is what the system achieves. Well, the purpose of the system is to keep people mentally ill so that they can't do any accounting while people rob them blind. And if you need any other reason to explain, for example, one of the things we found in the bill yesterday, which is this new electronic tracking of cattle. Did you see what Thomas Massey found again? That there's $15 million in this stupid pork barrel bill for tracking cattle. And he calls it, Thomas Massey calls this the CBDC, the central bank digital currency of food, right? It will be used by the green agenda to limit beef production and by the corporate meat oligopoly to dominate small ranchers, and that there is no law authorizing this money being spent. Yet it's out there, right? Go back to the money piece again. You had RFK yesterday talking about NATO, and he says the following on the show he was on. He says, NATO is a money laundering scheme for BlackRock. He says that whenever a nation joins NATO, it has to conform its weapon purchases to NATO standards. This is described as the trap market because conforming to NATO standards means buying your weapons from Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, Boeing. And then you look at who owns all these military contractors, and it's the same companies you can imagine, right? So there you go. Now, the good news is that we're catching all of this stuff. We're starting to be able to tell what kind of corruption has impacted our banks in America, what kind of corruption has gone through our political systems, right? We're seeing it all more obviously. But here's something that I didn't know, and it's pretty interesting, and I think it's where things are headed. And it comes from Carl Icahn. So Carl Icahn, friend of Trump's, one of Trump's billionaire backers. And here's something he did recently, right? So he fired 12 floors of people. Now, again, this is the idea of the federal government, that the purpose of the system, is what the system achieves. Here's what he says, right? He says that the low interest rate environment of the last few decades led to the proliferation of bullshit jobs. David Graeber wrote a book on the concept. I didn't coin the term. I spent, or as Cernovich calls them, laptop jobs. Right? I spent a few years in corporate America at some Fortune 500 companies. For the life of me, I could not figure out what a lot of people did. I figured there must be someone smarter than me that was certain they were necessary. So Carl Icahn just fired everyone and had enough of it, right? And when you start looking at what happened with Milei in Argentina and what Vivek is proposing, now go back to this bill, right? And you get Speaker Johnson saying, oh, we're going to cut 3%. We're going to get a bit of staff here. We're past that now. Vivek's plan of literally just saying everyone in the social security system whose number is odd, you're all fired, right? Nothing political, just nothing personal, nothing discriminatory. We're just going to shrink everything by half. He gives bigger numbers sometimes, but that's where we're headed. Milei, I don't know how he fired all of these people. What is it called? Abuela. What's the word? Abuela, right? Just get rid of this shit, right? So the roadmap that people like Milei have already provided, or the roadmap that Bukele has provided, right? Now, Milei went with all kinds of these normal, let's call them a slightly more innocent bureaucrats. Bukele went after the prosecutors and the judges and the people who were really corrupt and held on to some power. But the good news is we have both of these examples from the Spanish-speaking world now in order to use those models to copy and afuera. Yeah, afuera. What did I say, Jose? Afuera. My Spanish is not so good, right? It's not so good. So there you go. So abuela, yeah, grandma. I don't speak Spanish, guys. I speak French. This is as close as I'm going. Right? I'm not learning Spanish. I refuse. Afuera, abuela. Yeah, well, close enough, guys. Close enough. I am not a Spanish speaker. Maybe one day, but probably not. I'm happy enough with French and English, and I figure all these new translation services and the glasses and all that are gonna get me where I gotta go. So I'm going to put zero time into more languages and wait for the translation services. I speak decent enough Korean. I used to be able to get around in Japanese, so that's the only other languages I feel like learning are those. Maybe German because of my family background, but probably not either. Probably not. We'll see. Anyway, getting back to the point of what's going on and the examples we have of how to get out of this trouble with both Milei and Bukele and now Vivek talking about that, it looks like we are actually going to arrive at this point, right? Now, there's tons of trouble on the horizon, right? Everyone talking about Victoria Nuland retiring. Well, you might think it's a good idea, right? I saw a lot of people celebrating, wow, Victoria Nuland leaving Ukraine. No one has been worse for America. But hold on, just step back for a second and realize the moment we're in and say to yourself, you think she's just leaving, or is she coming back to America to do the mischief here? Because you got Trump way ahead in the polls, right? And now she's repatriated to America. What does that tell you? That it's all just fine? That they're going to let Trump continue to run and it's all going to be great? You get these reports of the Iranian assassination teams that are in America. You get the guards now on the U.S. subway system. You get Elon Musk talking about how America's in a right position to have something worse than 9/11, and they're bringing Victoria Nuland home. Nothing to worry about, guys. She's coming home. You know what she's going to do? She's just going to get an RV. All right. And she's going to be driving around America in an RV. Right. That's what she's doing. Of course. She's just coming home. You know, she's going to go take up RVing, maybe go see Disney, maybe drive around America, get a little bit of that freedom that she heard about, that she fought for. You know, that's what she's doing. Of course. Of course. Of course. So it looks like we do have more trouble coming, but our ability to understand it, our ability to not be manipulated by it, is in a totally different level than it was in 2016, a completely different planet than it was in 2020. You know, today is the 4th anniversary in America. Today, March 7th, the 4th anniversary of the fucking lockdowns. Okay. And I remember I got back from, you know, I was in Barcelona for the first cases there. I had to flee Barcelona. I made it to Paris for the first cases there. I had to flee Paris. So in November, I was in Barcelona. In February, I was in Barcelona, saw it happen, saw the panic gripping the people, saw the first cases, got the fuck out of Dodge because they were more afraid than I've ever seen anyone. They just shut every store instantly. They didn't even need a direction. They just shut the stores, right? And I was like, well, how do people eat if this happens? So I got my whole family together, jumped on a train, went right to Paris. And then I could see it coming into Paris. The farmers markets and stuff, they were still meeting, but I said, get out of there. Flew to New York for the first cases there. By the way, I am patient zero, in case anyone was wondering. It was actually even traced, the New York outbreak was traced to my CoinDesk's building in New York City. If you remember Larchmont, New York, which is a town up the East River, not East, you know, between the mainland and the island, right? So not the Hudson River, on the other side. If you go up Larchmont, Rye, there's a bunch of these towns towards Connecticut. And that was a town that was specially cordoned off because residents of Larchmont were positive. And where they worked, the CEO of CoinDesk was from Larchmont and obviously worked in the building downtown. So it was actually traced to my office, the New York outbreak. So I was pretty close to the whole early COVID stuff for sure. And now I remember, you know, there was a lot of mystery back then, a lot of unknowns, a lot of things no one really understood. I knew it. I had a better idea of my risks. So I wasn't sitting there saying, oh, I'm going to die. I had already had COVID in January of that year. So, and so did my whole family. So that's why I already went to Europe with the specter of the virus around. I sort of had a feeling we were fine and didn't need to worry too much. And so when we got back, I never really locked down ever. Like I was outside every day. I didn't follow any rules. I had already given myself permission at that point to just not obey anything. I just said, these guys are idiots. They're going to screw up. My promise to myself was I wouldn't get angry about any of it, but I wouldn't follow any rules anymore. That was done. Like the minute they started locking up the playgrounds and stuff, I said, no. This is not how we're playing this game. And from then on, I had my own places to go. I had a community garden. I had acreage in Brooklyn during the lockdowns, like actual acreage. I had chickens, everything from March until whatever, April, everything. And we only ever even like tried to be discreet for the original 2 weeks, in that I wasn't calling other kids to play with my kids and stuff like that. But by April, we were, you know, living normal lives, talking to all of our neighbors outside all the time, going to the beach all the time. We just didn't care, right? I just didn't follow the rules. I refused. And the neighborhoods around us, the Jewish neighborhood, for example, I was right next to Williamsburg, where you have all the Hasidim and the tunnels. You know, the tunnels. Those guys, they also did not follow the rules. So I was hanging out with them all the time. We're clipping locks outside of parks so the kids could play. And they were all scofflaws just like me. They have their own security force, their own police, their own everything in those neighborhoods. So we were pretty safe, let's say, from government incursions. But nevertheless, the capacity that I had at that time, as someone who had already been in Bitcoin for years, I had the benefit of someone like Balaji, for example, who was constantly working with CoinDesk, telling us, you know, giving us a bit better risk assessment of what was going on. So I was able to have an understanding of the trickery that was going on, just a little better than some people. Not like I wasn't in some special privileged knowledge situation. It was just the decisions that I made at the time that ended up being pretty useful as far as mental health goes. And the lockdowns didn't really affect us for those reasons. But now, right, the conditions that I had in 2020 that allowed me to get through the pandemic that year have become way more widespread, right? You've got, like I said, you've got the advantage now. Everyone has the advantage of someone like Balaji, who doesn't really have to hide his opinions anymore. He's able to be much more subversive openly. Remember, I don't know if you guys know this. This is an amazing little historical tidbit, and the whole world would be different if this happened. When Trump was first elected in 2016, there were rumors, and we knew. So Balaji was my keynote at Consensus 2016 in New York City. So we had been working with Balaji already for a long time. He was like on the CoinDesk, our advisory board for creating our agendas and that kind of stuff. So he wasn't at Coinbase yet. He was on his own with the 21, whatever it was called. And so Balaji, already in 2016, was tapped after Trump won his election in late 2016. He was tapped to be the head of the FDA. He would have been in charge of the pandemic. Now, he didn't want the risk of being associated with Trump in 2016, I think. I'm just guessing. But he entertained it. He went completely dark. He erased his entire Twitter. Everything was taken off. He disappeared. He was off Twitter for a long time after. I don't think he showed his face on Twitter for 2 years after that. He just went black, dark, right? Just gone. And he didn't take the job with Trump. Now, the world would not be remotely close to the same place had he taken that opportunity back then. Now, look at how different things are in 2024 compared to 2016. If, I believe, Trump offered Balaji something like the head of the FDA to destroy it, to reform it, to do what Carl Icahn did, to do what Vivek says, to do what Elon did to X and Twitter and fire all these people, right? If they take that path, if that's what they end up doing, to me, there's no doubt in my mind we're going to be in a different scenario, and that we are in this different scenario now. I think these things are more realistic. Now, I'm not predicting that Balaji is going to go be Trump's FDA head, but the desire for everyone to work together, put aside differences to destroy this unbelievable monster that's been created at the heart of America, is more pressing than ever and more obvious than ever. And for those reasons, I think we're going to win. I think 2024 is going to be great. And I'm not worried about what they're going to do to Trump. And, because look, the actual general election started yesterday. Now, we got to take one moment and just acknowledge how amazing it's been to have these people come and primary Trump, for example, right? I don't think if Trump had DeSantis and, well, even more than Vivek, DeSantis did this. Even more than Vivek, DeSantis did this. DeSantis was a viable alternative to Trump for governing and all that stuff. I don't think Trump gets the legitimacy that he has now if it wasn't for people like DeSantis doing a real sincere effort to have another option on the table. DeSantis, we got to thank all these people who ran. RFK, DeSantis, even stupid bird brain Nikki Haley, because if the option wasn't there, you could actually say Trump doesn't have as much legitimacy. But we saw the full option. Americans got to see all of their options, and they chose Trump. Republicans, anyway. And to me, that puts Trump in a completely different realm of legitimacy than he's ever been in before. Ever. We're not in the same 2016, 2020 scenario. We had people like Vivek just launching these incredible ideas. And, in the same way that I think DeSantis legitimized Trump by being a credible, more typical Republican option, Vivek also legitimized Trump by being an even more extreme version of what Trump is proposing. And people had an appetite for that too. So, and I still believe, of course, that just the intellectual energy that Vivek brought really does inoculate I think it's a type of vaccine against all this racist. I mean, they're going to say he's the black face of white supremacy again, right? But again, look what it does for Trump. If Trump can actually move this forward, you're not those attack things of racist, white supremacist, all that much weakened compared to 2020 and 2016. Almost ineffective. The best they can hope for is stupid Brian Stelter nagging us about being racist, and that isn't going to work. Right? It's not going to work. So winning. All right, now let me see what the people are saying over on. I did watch a little bit of Vivek on X last night. Connector asks. So there you go. RFK, no, Muslim Bitcoiner says, don't worry about the RFK ETH stuff, guys. It's very, very overplayed. He's just trying to get some money. Also, when I say delivery workers complained about no wage, got wage, now complains about no tips and less hours given, workers complain. New York City. What a dump, huh? Drew Hadley says, are we ready for Biden's Gong Show comedy hour tonight? I have a feeling it's going to be amazing because I want to see how many drugs they have to put him on, first of all. And then he gets angry, right? And then he gets angry. I want to see the anger tonight. I like when he's angry. It's just, it satisfies me. Did you watch, Vivek? Yeah. These Orwellians are insanely evil. Oh. Get ready for summer, bro. Hillary Clinton is my abuela. Stick to Nihonese and French. Has anyone been able to see? This is a entertainment recommendation, which I rarely do, but the James Clavell Shogun series is out, and boy, is it good. I mean, it's amazing. And if they do the whole series, it's going to be terrific too, because they go to Hong Kong next, and the Hong Kong stuff is just super cool. Dang it, I forgot to put my promo code again. Don't forget, everyone, if you want to come to Hong Kong, Bitcoin Asia, May 9th and 10th, you can use my promo code SpaceDrop for a discounted tickets. You can also use it if you want to go to Nashville in the summer to Bitcoin 2024 Nashville, July 25th to 27th. Promo code Space Drop will work there too. It is not an airdrop; it's a space drop. Right? It's not the same thing. Not the same thing. Get ready for summer, bros. Indeed, Jose. She's going to get a job in DC. Richard says, "I don't know a job. Is she going to get a job? Is that what she does? Jobs." She's going to be the director of something? No. She's coming home in America, I think, for mischief. She's a mischief coordinator. So I don't know about a job. She'll have a mission. She's coming home for a mission. So be very careful. I'm not kidding. Everyone's celebrating her thing quitting her job in Ukraine. Well, that war's done. Okay, they got another one now. They got another election to scam, another color revolution to run in America. So unless we string her up, she's going to be up to the mischief. This is not a person who is beyond killing Americans, I don't think, right? So she's a very, very dangerous person, I believe, a very dangerous person. So I wouldn't be as celebratory about her coming home. I would say it's a lottery now. There's a lottery going on in America, and it's not the kind of lottery you want to win, right? You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. That reminds me, I got to fucking cancel New York stuff again. Hate it. It's not on Netflix. No, it's on Hulu. And I believe FX is the one who produced it. I got because I can't watch ads, so I had to buy the temporary 1 month Hulu membership or whatever. But I'll cut it immediately at the end of the month. I couldn't buy the whole series. I would have bought it on Apple or something, but it's not. You have to get Hulu, so I just got Hulu for the month. Hate giving money to Disney, that's for sure. But what are you going to do? It's a very good show. Very good. Excellent. Set at the beginning of the shogunate and just terrifically acted, and the sets are awesome, and the tension and the music. It's been great so far. I mean, really, really great. All right, everyone. That's all I got for today. Thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate it. It's going to be a great day, right? Having fun. All right, everyone. Peace.